Greetings, dear Aquarian types. This is Terralumination with your video in part of a series about the Aries North Node transit. I'm going to try and explain it as best I can in a very simple, understandable way. Please watch the Aries North Node primer video that goes along with this video and all the other 11 videos in the series, okay? You really got to watch both to get the full understanding of what we're dealing with here. That's the symbol for the North Node. That's the symbol for the South Node. The North Node could be, let's say, a direction on the compass of life, where you're heading, typically into the unknown. And over here would be where you've come from, perhaps past lives, or your conditioning as a childhood. In other words, you're like your default settings. And it's a journey from here to here. Not always fun and games. Okay, let's go over it. Let's have a look. So it's different for everybody, different for every sign, but there are some signs that are going to have an easier time than others. And there's a reason for that. For example, with the Aquarius types, dealing with the South Node and the North Node, this energy here is an astrological trine. Okay, so that's very comfortable, harmonious. And this aspect here is a sextile, which is also advantageous, opportunistic, very, very nice to have. Like, for example, Capricorn and Cancerian types might have a challenging time with this transit. Now remember also with this video, I'm not saying you're born with Libra South Node, Aries North Node. You might not have any planets here or here. This is the 9th house. This is the 3rd house. Planets in Libra, planets in Aries. So what? This transit is happening anyway. The whole cycle takes 18.5 years to go from here all the way around to here again. And do it again, you're coming up to 37 years. Divide it up, and it's about 1.5 years in each sign. So we just lived through 1.5 years of the North Node in Taurus. And that had a whole storyline. I don't think I ever made any videos on that. But anyway, it's kind of history now. It's lived its thing, and we're now switching, crossing the cusp into the Aries North Node journey. Please watch the primer video. It'll explain a lot about the North Node itself and the journey of the North Node itself and how important it is in your personal astrology. Now, if you want to go deep into this stuff, you're very welcome. I am here. Here's the website. Go to terralumination.com. Please donate. It really, really helps. And if you want to book a reading there, it's very simple. Figure it out. It comes up with a processor. You can do it that way, and we schedule it. It's all done in private over my Pro Zoom, okay? So, over here, how am I going to bring this? Okay, so here's my little indicator, okay? So we're starting here right now, July 2023, and it's going to be January 2025 till we get to here. So you have a year and a half to take advantage of this. The whole idea is to understand what's not working over here and have the courage and time and energy to dedicate yourself to evolution, which you're going to feel over here in terms of having the opportunity. So think of basic themes, okay? With the 9th house, it might be things like education, travel, higher knowledge, wisdom, adventure, universities, heavy-duty advanced studies, all these classic Sagittarius keywords. You can do your own homework if you want. Then put the lens of Libra on top of that. What do you think of? Libra, love, relationships, even three-dimensional money or currency, harmony, balance, sometimes the law, like finding the balancing point. Justice is blind. We need to find that harmony and balance. So with the Libra South Node vibe here, the default setting would be to for everything to filter through the lens of relationships. And the understanding that there's a lot of redundancy here. Okay? I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying that it might be very subtle redundancies, because when you're dealing with the trine aspects, you might take it for granted that everything's already comfortable. Why bother to figure all this stuff out with Terralumination videos? What's the point? I'm already fine as I am. Okay, all I'm suggesting is that this is a piece of sacred opportunity from now till then. Okay, so please take advantage of it. If you've never looked into these things before, please look into it now. So what you might find is that you've got stuck, perhaps with, let's say, preconceived, well-established relationship dynamics regarding like where you outsource for higher knowledge, higher wisdom, higher information. And it's like you keep going over and over the same thing. And you start to notice that there's things that are actually not working here for you. Like relationships that you've counted on, perhaps with very important mentors or teachers or guides or studies that you believed over the years would have helped you, are starting to, you might feel like you've grown out of this. Like, well, what am I supposed to do? Where am I supposed to go? Everything I do in this area of my life is through the lens of through the context of relationships. When I go on a hike or when I'm going on some big adventure, I have to have my adventure buddy with me, and they're always there with me. But it's starting to not work so much anymore, because I'm discovering that my adventure buddy is actually way out of calibration with me personally. And it's not so much fun anymore. It's not so exciting. Like, in fact, I feel like I'm going backwards in life. So remember, this is an 18-and-a-half-year cycle to go from here to here. A lot of those first 18 years for most people are lived through conditioning and the way they were raised as little children, the way they were schooled, the natural predilections of their birth astrology, the predilections of their south node, and it may not be anything to do with a Libra south node. It'll just be their own personal south node. And those are all default settings such that a lot of youthful behavior is done through hormones, instincts, conditioning, reflexes. 95% of behavior at that point in life is reflex behavior. But there are other ways to behave. There is ways to behave where you take full account of your environment, your situation, your relationships, and you kind of give yourself a little bit of a 10-second rule where if something is happening to you or towards you in the context of relationship or life experiences, if something starts to feel out of whack, you had the full right and permission and duty and obligation to yourself to admit that to yourself and start to question things like, well, wait a minute, just because I was raised with you as my little neighbor kid or at school and we're supposed to be best friends because, our parents told us so, across the street here, but actually there's a lot of stuff about you that I don't like. And frankly, I've seen the way you've mistreated me sometimes, and I don't want to do this anymore. So that might be little things like that. You might get hints of that in the first cycle, and you think it's so much more fun to be out and around and about, just minding my own business, doing my cool stuff just for me in my own little ways. I don't have to be part of some big, academic agenda where I have to fit in with certain pre-established relationship dynamics that don't actually work for me. And then you enter the next cycle, and then you reach the age of about 37, and by that time in this area of your life you would have realized, oh yeah, now I fully understand what Terralumination is talking about. I totally get it. You may have outgrown a lot of relationships, but because it's the default setting, it might be much harder to relinquish those relationships as opposed to just putting up with them. So what's the solution here? Because what are you supposed to do? Well, the answer is in this direction. It's completely the opposite direction. How about this in very simplistic terms? Why don't you, dear Aquarius, take all your wisdom and knowledge and massive life experience that you've had out there in the great beyond, in the adventures of life, studying life, doing bold, brave, courageous things because you wanted to experience life, and just condense it all into your own thesis about life, and perhaps consider sharing that. First of all, bring it into personal ownership to yourself, and then you can become an authority with all this wisdom, and you can share it in your own world of personal communications with very significant others that you determine for yourself, rather than predetermined, pre-established relationships that are almost like dead weight. Okay? It could be anything. You might have some teacher qualities. You might have some professor qualities. You might have over the years, especially if you're over the age of 37 or if you're in the late 30s, you will have amassed plenty of life experience during the ninth house transits of your life, and you would have built that, incorporated that into your DNA. And it's time for you to go out there, be the bold leader, take all this for granted and say, okay, I've been there, done that. I don't have to be beholden to these relationships, that institution, that particular, let's say, what do they call them? Modality, like cult modalities, or not really cult, but religious teachings, or political type of formatting. You can have your own opinions over here, and it feels very satisfying to actually put yourself first and tell yourself, look in the mirror, say, you know what? I don't have to apologize. I'm right, and I know I'm right, because I've had the experience already. I know a lot about what doesn't work and what has failed. I know that when I've trusted all sorts of relationships and I've been let down, there's a reason for that. It's because it's redundant. I trusted things that really were not trustworthy. I believed people, institutions, big picture, lifestyle package deals that are actually very bogus, sham, fake. I want what's simple, real, truth, honest, what works. It's very blunt. It's very simple. Aries energy. I'm just going to go out there and do it. So it means starting to become more active and self-contained and trusting and believing yourself than ever before. And don't worry about if someone comes back at you and says, God, you just really got on your high horse lately. You think you know it all, don't you? Well, you can look back and kind of go, well, maybe I've learned a lot. Thank you very much. And you don't have to be rude. You don't have to give them the middle finger. You can just move on with life. And if they can't handle you, the new, improved you, that's their problem. That's their loss. Okay? You don't have to apologize for being you. You don't have to apologize for claiming your sacred self and finding new, much more simplified, direct ways to communicate and share your knowledge, as opposed to being a student of super ultra high learning. Now you can be a teacher and translate it down into common language that anybody can understand. That's just my Terralumination interpretation of this possible experience for you. It could work out in so many other ways, but we don't have time here, so I hope this makes some kind of sense to you. Please, again, watch the primer video. It's really, really important so that you understand the really big picture about how important it is to understand the North Node, and then you can even do your own research and study it in your own chart. Understand where you came from and where you're going. And of course, if you really want to get into it, you can book a private reading with Terralumination. So, thank you very much for watching. Go to terralumination.com. You can figure it out from there. Thank you, Aquarians. All the best.